Welcome, everyone. Today, we are addressing one of the most persistent challenges in the industrial sector: how to build a reliability culture that actually lasts. We've all seen great initiatives thrive under one leader, only to crumble when they move on. My name is Santosh Raikar, and today we'll explore how to move beyond temporary programs to create a lasting institutional capability. The ultimate test for any board or executive is this: if your champion leaves tomorrow, what remains on Monday morning? We need to distinguish between a program, which is just a named initiative with a launch deck, a system, which consists of repeatable routines, and a true culture, which is what people protect when priorities compete and no one is watching. Why does this matter right now? Industrial companies are changing faster than their systems can absorb. Leadership rotation, an aging workforce, and the transparency brought by digital tools mean that reliability can no longer be a slogan in the maintenance department. It must be a management system that protects the balance sheet from the downside of leader-dependent performance. Sustainable reliability isn't just about fixing machines. It's an enterprise control. Our thesis today is built on four pillars: governance to ensure accountability, behavior to drive choices under pressure, economics to translate technical data into margin, and operating discipline to convert intent into daily work execution. When leadership changes, the logo stays, but discipline is usually the first casualty. We see a predictable decay where standards become optional, meetings turn into reporting rituals, and the reliability engineer stops being a challenger, starts being a mere analyst. The energy from the launch eventually flatlines into risk. In part one, we will examine the specific failure patterns that cause even the best-intentioned reliability programs to disappear. The first failure pattern is sponsor dependency. This happens when a charismatic leader launches a program with high energy, but fails to embed decision rights. Once that champion is gone, the organization quietly regresses to its old defaults because the discipline was tied to a person, not a process. Next is the KPI-dependent culture, when the goal becomes managing the number rather than managing the system. Dashboards can show green even while actual asset risk is increasing. If behavior isn't audited, the metrics provide a false sense of security while defects accumulate in the background. The third pattern is tool dependency. Many organizations believe a new CMMS or AI dashboard will create discipline. In reality, digital systems only reveal whether discipline exists. A tool-centric culture often just provides faster visibility into problems that the organization still doesn't have the discipline to solve. Finally, we have hero dependency. We often celebrate the person who works all weekend to fix a breakdown, but constant heroics are actually expensive reliability insurance. If your board celebrates firefighting more than defect elimination, your culture is unstable and your system is broken. Walk through any program graveyard and you'll find beautiful artifacts, binders of unused procedures, forgotten acronyms, and dashboards that no one acts upon. A reliability program is only truly alive when it changes how resources are allocated and how decisions are made daily. This shock curve illustrates the moment of truth. When a leader leaves, a leader-dependent program decays rapidly. However, an institutionalized system stabilizes behavior, ensuring that reliability capability is part of the organization's DNA, regardless of who is in the corner office. To avoid this decay, we must ask, is this a project, a process, or a capability? A project is temporary. A process is better but fragile. A true capability is a governed system of people, standards, and resources that survives any individual transition. In part two, we will look at how to structure reliability culture as a robust enterprise operating system. Let's define it practically. Reliability culture is the shared discipline of protecting asset health while delivering results. It's not what we say in meetings. It's what we choose when output, cost, and safety are in direct conflict. It is the tiebreaker in difficult decisions. Culture lives in the operating rhythm, the daily and weekly routines. These meetings shouldn't just be for exchanging information. They must be decision-making forums. The agenda needs to outlive the meeting owner, so the same critical questions are asked consistently across every site. Think of it as a flywheel. When standards drive work quality, which generates better data, which leads to better decisions and results, you create a reinforcing loop. This momentum is what makes the culture self-sustaining over time. To survive a leadership transition, you need a minimum architecture. This includes clear purpose, defined roles for decision-making, repeatable routines, verified skills, and a governance structure that rewards the right behaviors. Governance is what makes culture non-negotiable. It converts leadership intent into durable requirements through policy, clear decision rights, and behavioral audits. Without governance, reliability is just an individual preference that can be ignored under pressure. Protecting the culture requires clear decision rights. We must define who is allowed to accept asset risk at every level, from the board's risk appetite down to an operator's ownership of the operating envelope. If risk acceptance is informal, it will always drift toward the path of least resistance. Standards are the memory of the organization. When a new leader arrives, they shouldn't be renegotiating the definition of good. They should inherit a working standard that connects asset risk to business value, ensuring continuity from day one. A durable culture sits at the center of this triangle, where business review, work management, and asset strategy all reinforce each other using the same risk-based language. Now, let's move to part 3, building the financial case. To get board-level buy-in, we must speak the language of value. Boards fund outcomes, not slogans. We need a translation layer that turns maintenance terms like MTBF and backlog into board-level metrics like EBITDA, free cash flow, and enterprise risk. We must show how reliability drives the bottom line. Reliability culture directly protects EBITDA. Margin erosion doesn't just happen during a major crash. It starts much earlier with minor stops, yield losses, and emergency premiums. By the time a crisis hits the P&L, the reliability system has already failed multiple times. Reliability is also a cash conversion discipline. A weak culture ties up cash in excess, spares, and idle assets, while a strong one preserves cash through stable production and planned, cost-effective work. It's about turning capital into productive output with minimal waste. Investors value predictability. A mature reliability culture supports enterprise value by reducing earnings volatility, lowering the risk profile for safety or environmental failures, and ensuring disciplined capital allocation for asset replacement. From the board's perspective, a weak reliability culture is a latent risk exposure. It's an operational risk control environment that protects safety, environmental compliance, customer trust, and financial stability all at once. We must also map where value leaks away silently, whether it's through hidden capacity loss from minor stops, scrap from quality drift, or the reliability debt of deferred risk. These leaks are the direct result of a weak reliability culture. A board-level dashboard should look different. It shouldn't just track activity. It should track behavior, asset health, business value protected, and learning. We need to see if we are actually getting better at eliminating repeat failures and following through on RCA actions. In part 4, we'll discuss the specific leadership behaviors that make this culture last. Culture is shaped by what leaders tolerate. If you reward emergency saves more than prevention, or cut PMs without understanding the risk, you are damaging the culture. The organization will always do what you inspect and fund, not just what you announce. Questions are more powerful than slogans. Leaders should consistently ask about accepted risks, recurring defects, and which standards need to change. These questions signal to the organization what truly matters. The moment of truth happens during trade-offs. When production pressure clashes with asset health, the goal isn't always to stop production. It's to ensure that risk is never accepted unconsciously. Every decision must be deliberate and documented. Be careful with your recognition systems. While we must thank people for saving production during a crisis, we should reserve our highest praise for those who eliminated the defect that would have caused the crisis in the first place. Celebrate the boring success of prevention. Sustainability requires both psychological safety and technical discipline. People must feel safe enough to surface weak signals of failure, and the system must have the discipline to convert those concerns into actual work plans and risk decisions. Operations ownership is non-negotiable. Reliability isn't something maintenance does to operations. If operations doesn't own the operating envelope and basic care, maintenance can never maintain reliability into a plant that is operated unreliably. Maintenance ownership is about the quality of execution. Every job must be treated as risk control work, from planning to precision execution and feedback. Poor work quality is not just a craft issue, it's an enterprise risk issue. Engineering must move beyond just designing projects to focusing on defect elimination. By analyzing chronic failures and updating design standards, engineering ensures the organization doesn't have to relearn the same painful lessons over and over. Finance should be a reliability partner, not just a cost controller. By validating the economics of downtime and helping prioritize investments based on risk-adjusted value, finance ensures that reliability becomes a durable part of the business strategy. HR ensures capability continuity. We need to move from training attendance to field demonstrated competence. If critical knowledge only lives in people's heads and not in the system, your culture leaves the gate every day at shift change. Part 5 focuses on the leadership transition, the specific moment when your reliability culture is tested most severely. The first 100 days of a new leader can either institutionalize or destabilize the culture. Instead of letting them redefine everything, give them a culture handoff package and audit the operating rhythm at 30, 60, and 100 days to ensure continuity. What goes in that handoff package? Every incoming leader should receive a map of critical asset health, a list of current risk deferrals, the governance calendar, and a map of competency risks. This keeps the focus on the reality of the assets, not just the financial targets. For a new leader, the first 30 days should be spent listening and learning the risk profile. By day 60, they should be auditing execution, and by day 100, they should be reinforcing the existing routines and removing friction rather than rewriting the program. Avoid culture fatigue. A new leader bringing a new slogan and a new dashboard usually causes people to tune out. A better pattern is a new leader who brings consistent standards and clearer accountability, providing the stability the plant needs. Calendar discipline is a simple but powerful stabilizer. Whether it's the daily safety and defect review or the annual strategy refresh, these fixed forms ensure that reliability remains on the agenda regardless of who is leading the meeting. Watch for the warning signs of degradation. When PM deferrals increase without review, or when the weekly schedule becomes a wish list, your culture is weakening. A key metric to track is the ratio of risk accepted versus risk eliminated. A sustainability audit shouldn't just look at documents. It should observe behavior, attend to routines, interview the technicians, and trace a single defect from discovery to closure. Does the process actually change decisions? That's the only question that matters. In Part 6, we present an implementation model to make this culture truly durable. This 18-month roadmap is a practical sequence for building capability. It's not a one-time transformation. It's a phased approach that produces evidence of risk reduction and work quality at every step, aligned with your annual planning cycles. Phase 1 is diagnosis. Before you prescribe a solution or launch a tool, you must understand the real culture, the hidden shortcuts, the asset risks, and the economic leakage. You can't fix what you haven't honestly measured. Phase 2 is stabilization. You must protect the weekly schedule from daily pressures. Executives must play a role here by not demanding transformation speed, while allowing routine discipline to be broken every week for short-term wins. Phase 3 is standardization. We need a minimum viable system with a common language for criticality, work management, and RCA. Standards reduce the impact of leadership preference and build organizational memory. Phase 4 is embedding. This is where reliability moves into the budget, talent management, and capital gates. If reliability isn't part of the business planning cycle, it will always be viewed as a program that can be cut. Phase 5 is scaling. A culture that depends on one person's personality is not a culture. Scaling means transferring the operating system and routines across sites so that everyone is speaking the same language of risk and value. Phase 6 is audit and renewal. Sustainability requires periodic challenge. We must require evidence that routines are healthy, decisions are high quality, and learning is actually being transferred across the organization. This maturity model provides a board-level view of progress. Most organizations start in reactive survival mode. The goal is to reach governed and eventually enterprise levels where culture survives any leadership change. Our scorecard should measure the behaviors that predict durability. Avoid vanity metrics that make everyone look good. Instead, look at defect closure quality and risk deferrals to guide leadership action. We recommend a heat map workshop to get an honest score of your current status. The output should be 5 simple actions, one behavior to reinforce, one standard to stabilize, and so on, to hardwire improvement. In part 7, let's look at 3 case vignettes that are perfect for board-level discussion. The first is the PM compliance trap. In this case, the metrics look perfect, but the assets kept failing. The lesson? Completion is not effectiveness. We must measure the quality of the work and the follow-up, not just the check mark. The second is the champion left. This is the classic story where momentum stops because ownership wasn't shared. When the believer left, the meetings continued, but the decisions grew weak. The lesson is that a program must survive the loss of its strongest advocate. The third is a success, the financially translated case. By quantifying downtime and risk, the reliability strategy became part of the business plan. It wasn't a maintenance request anymore. It was a business necessity that was hard to ignore. As a board, ask yourselves, which story are we living? Most plans have elements of all 3. We need to identify where our numbers are lying to us and where we are overly dependent on individuals. Finally, part 8, the action agenda for boards and executives. Here are 5 questions every board should ask. You don't need to manage maintenance, but you must govern reliability risk. Ask about critical assets, current risk acceptances, and what evidence proves the culture is actually improving. Executives should focus on the next 90 days. Create a risk review at your level, define decision rights, and ensure that every leadership transition includes a culture handoff package. Link these metrics directly to your business reviews. When it comes to funding, prioritize the systems that make behavior repeatable. Don't fund a fancy dashboard before you fund the competency and work systems that make the data actionable. Build the foundation first. Sustainability also requires subtraction. Stop launching new slogans, stop celebrating firefighting, and stop accepting asset risk without clear ownership. Sometimes what you stop doing is more important than what you start. This is the enterprise ownership model. Every department, from finance and HR to operations and engineering, has a specific role in protecting the reliability culture. It is a team sport. The final test for any leader is this: would the culture still be visible 1 year after you leave? Your success is measured by the discipline that remains in your absence, not the program you launched while you were there. To wrap up, a program isn't a culture until it survives change. Reliability is an enterprise risk control system, and governance is what makes it durable. By speaking the language of finance, we make reliability impossible to ignore. My call to action is simple. Start by auditing one critical area for sustainability within 30 days. Translate those risks into financial language and embed those routines into your governance. Don't ask if you have a program. Ask what will still be true when you're gone. Thank you for your time. I'd like to open the floor for discussion. Specifically, what reliability capability must your organization preserve through its next leadership change? This slide contains our credits and disclosure statement. All visuals were custom created or AI generated to ensure copyright compliance, and these generic vignettes are for educational purposes. Please validate all assumptions with your own internal experts. Finally, here are the references and industry standards that framed our approach today, from ISO 55000 to McKinsey's research on transformation. These sources provide the foundation for the frameworks we discussed. Thank you again.